Kia ora, g'day, welcome back once again here with another reaction. This time this is the Resilience Show. Sorry, I don't know who the host is, but we'll get to that. That's what happens when I just mark things to watch later and do a reaction to, and I don't do any research on it. I find it's better for me anyway, more authentic to just react to what it is that I'm seeing and hearing for the first time. But the title of this one on YouTube is Navy SEAL Commander Brad Geary. I've heard his name before. And the truth about buds and moral courage. So let's jump in.
Everything they wanted, it's everything they thought they were destined to be.
You're not talking about the ones that quit. You're talking about the ones
that I had to drop for performance or character or something like that. It was always really hard. I used to say I'm the killer of dreams, and that's hard to come home to at the end of the day. My sister-in-law corrected me. She said, no, you're the killer of self-delusion.
We can never compromise this training. This is the training that puts these warriors in tip of spirit that we're going to go sleep peacefully at night.
That's right.
Because of that.
Training for warfare and going to war, there is no more dangerous job out there. And you don't train for war by being totally safe. While we should never accept death as the cost of doing business, we must also somehow reconcile the fact that it is a statistical inevitability. It's going to happen.
Just hours after finishing a grueling training, 2 Navy SEAL candidates were rushed to the hospital.
When Kyle died, one of the first conversations I had with my boss was, hey, I was in command. I understand what that looks like. If you need a sacrificial lamb, if the community needs me to hang for this, I'm willing to do that for the love of the tribe and for the love of our community. So I acknowledged that and offered it. However, it needs to be on truth. Mm-hmm. So when they started lying about it all and then using that as the reason to come after me, I said, no, that's absolutely not going to happen.
Holy heck, there's a lot in that, just in the intro there. So looking forward to this. I didn't know anything about the Navy SEALs that passed away. So yeah, let's see what this is all about.
Welcome back to another episode of the Resilience Show. Huge treat for you today. My friend, Captain Brad Geary, United States Navy SEAL Commander, and we're going to get into all kind of things. You may or may not have seen Brad's story on 2 episodes of the Sean Ryan Show.
That's right,
yeah. 2 episodes of the Sean Ryan Show. If you hadn't, I definitely encourage you to go back after you listen. Finish this one first. Go back and listen to those 2 episodes that are really all tying together. Sean did a phenomenal job, and Brad just showed tremendous courage. That's something that really, just watching how Brad handled the situation he was in that we're going to talk about today really encouraged me in a lot of areas, and I think it would for you as well. Brad, super excited to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'll have to go back and try to find the Sean Ryan Show once with Brad's interview on there. Maybe that's where I've heard his name before. His name sounds familiar. Maybe it's from DJ Shipley or Sean Ryan Show or both. But
and get into all things about what you've done and also about what you're going to be doing.
Sorry for pausing again. I'm just looking at the host's cauliflower ears, man. Wrestling, jiu-jitsu, MMA, something, or all of it. I should have a look, but if you know, because I probably won't have a look and I'll probably forget to have a look into who the host is, feel free to drop it in the comments what this guy does, but you don't get ears like that from sitting on the couch.
Moving forward.
Appreciate it, Chad. Thanks for having me.
And we have the hero of your story here with us behind the scenes,
That's right.
Amy.
That's right. 100%.
You have an amazing family. I've watched your daughter recently. Made a speech.
That's right.
How'd that feel?
Oh man. Well, yeah, all the kids, I'm so proud of them for, you talk about resiliency and what they've endured, especially our oldest too, through those hard years of military service. But, she's particularly artistic and very good with her words. So she's written some songs and she wrote this poem as we're getting close to our retirement. And, she said, hey, I want to share, my poem with you, Mom and Dad. She's written a few over the years.
Yeah.
So she read it to us and Amy and I, of course, were pretty choked up hearing it.
Yeah.
And then Amy suggested, you should read that at Dad's retirement if you're willing and able. And she didn't skip a beat. They say that one of the greatest fears for most Americans, most people, I think, is speaking in front of people in a public forum. And she just stood up and sent it. It was incredible. And we weaved it into the retirement ceremony where she was using that to introduce me as the, now at my retirement ceremony, my speech. So I was barely holding it together behind her the whole time. Like, oh man, I was so proud. So proud.
Yeah, it was super cool. I saw it. I was
Yeah.
like, man, that was special.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't think about it when think about a career like yours, 24 years of special operations.
Yeah.
You're the guy. You've done all the hard stuff, the deployments. You've ate the dirt and lost friends and all the stuff that you go through, but don't realize we're kind of doing that because we like it. We love that we chose to do it, but our families long for the ride.
That's right.
And they're the ones enduring.
That's right.
Dad being away and my husband being away. And
I've said for years, I've had this very thought, and I think it's unfair for the military to classify our families as military dependents. I think that is a false title, and it sets them up to be relegated and feel a little bit even like less than. You're like you said, you're just along for the ride. That's so untrue.
Mm-hmm.
I love that he shared that. That is untrue, and I think it might have been Willie Apiata. Is either Willie or somebody? I think it might have been. And Harry Moffat. So I'm pretty sure it was Willie Apiata, former NZ SAS. I think he's a WO1 or honorary WO1 or whatever it is within the New Zealand Defence Force. He's still regularly closely connected to the NZDF and the regiment in NZ. And I think it was Harry Moffat as well, ex-SASR, that spoke about who both believed that family members should receive, a service medal in that as well, because they serve the same as those that serve in the military. I was, my wife and I, a little bit different because we both served in the New Zealand Defence Force, but then she carried on serving while I had the privilege to serve in the ADF and the Australian Defence Force as well. And, so did 4 of our 6 children, 3 and a half, 4 of our 6 children served as well during that time. So, yeah, they definitely shouldn't be relegated. They are equal partners in that service. And although I and the people that I was with, got to deploy and go away and serve overseas on operations and conflict, they're still battling at home, trying to hold things together. So I really like what Brad and the host, I think he said the host name was, Chad. I hope that's right. Sorry if I got it wrong. I like what they said.
They carry as much weight on their shoulders as we do in many different ways. And I've said for years that no, they're not military dependents. They're actually fiercely independent. When you look at all the times we're gone, all the times we have to be mission focused, where you have to put duty first. And then they're left running life, raising kids, dealing with impossible scenarios without dad home, to help navigate, wicked hard problems.
Yeah.
My wife was one of 4 sisters. And so we got 2 boys. And so there were many times I was gone off comms, maybe on a submarine for months at a time. And she's raising boys. And she's like, I have no experience in this world. There's a big mystery there. Yeah. So what they do as families is absolutely incredible. And in fact, interestingly, for the first time ever, there's now a memorial in Coronado for military families. It's the first memorial ever to represent what families do. Oh. And it's built around Sybil Stockdale. So it's great that you brought up the James Stockdale Award, because Sybil Stockdale, his wife, if you've ever read their story in Love and War, what she did on the home front to advocate for POWs in Vietnam at the time changed U.S. policy and absolutely helped influence them getting released down the road. So it's pretty neat that finally some organizations out there are acknowledging the burden that our families carry.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that he shared all of that. It made me smile, and he said there's a mystery there around raising boys while he was out on a submarine and she's at home, raising the 2 boys. I agree with my wife's comments that she shared. I don't know if all mothers or parents feel this way, but my wife has shared, and I recognize it too. She's saying, man, the boys are so low maintenance. When they were little, when they were young, like toddlers, like they were blinking full of beans, bouncing off everything from what my wife has shared. But as they've gotten older, early teenage years, that sort of thing, our boys have always been pretty chill, mellow, go with the flow. Now girls, probably our 2 younger ones are quite high maintenance. They probably won't like me saying that, but just probably not high maintenance in the sense of wanting and getting everything, because they don't. but high maintenance and just they're noisy. They just can't help themselves, but they have to talk. They do gossip a bit. Lincoln and I pull them up. Their mother and I pull them up on that. But they're still hard case though. But they're like night and day between our sons and our girls at the ages that they're at now. The boys were chill and real easy to work with, and they still are. Ask them to do something, they'd do it. The girls, holy heck, I get a whole blanket long, but I've been doing this. Actually, I'm going off on a tangent now. I shouldn't do that. But I like what he's shared here. But that thought when he mentioned around his wife saying that she had no, she's struggling with how to raise the boys, or maybe that's the impression I got when he was saying that. Yeah, our boys have been completely different, and I agree with my wife's comment. Our boys have been low maintenance.
I believe it's an essential part of our national security because, you've seen both sides, right? You've seen wives that have been incredible supporters, but you've also seen those that haven't.
That's right.
And the impact it makes on, especially if they're a leader, when the command operation, if they have a wife that's not
that's right,
supportive in that role.
That's right.
And so, it's an essential part of operational readiness.
Oh yeah, makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Good. Yeah. Well, Amy, thank you for your service to America. I know you guys. Congratulations on retirement.
Yeah.
And now you get to actually enjoy them.
Yes, and we are enjoying it.
I'm glad that the host here acknowledged Amy, Brad Geary's wife. Yeah, and for her service, the way that she has served as well. Her and their children, so their entire family.
Well, so what led you to join the Navy in the first place, especially to be commissioned as a SEAL? Because you, from what I understand, you went in the Navy and went straight to the SEAL teams.
That's right. So I was never interested necessarily in the military growing up. I didn't like the structure of it. I didn't like the idea that people would tell me where to go, what to wear. But I was a swimmer going up through high school, and my swim coach was a history teacher as well. Don Clark, phenomenal guy, phenomenal man in my life. And so I had a great junior year at swimming, and some colleges started sending me recruitment letters, and the Naval Academy was one of them. And I didn't even know what it was. I thought at the time, like, what is this? They teach you how to drive boats? Like, this seems ridiculous. Why would I ever do this? I had no idea, literally zero idea. And my coach, like, Brad, no. Like, this is a huge opportunity. Please write them back and at least look into it, at least consider what they have going on out there. And the more I read about it, the more I liked. I was seeing a lot of college graduates come out of college and come back home and live with mom and dad and get entry-level jobs and have higher expectations than what I think they were getting a return on with an undergraduate degree. What I liked about the Naval Academy was, well, yeah, shoot, they pay for your school. That's nice. Pretty good educational institution up there in Maryland. And then I liked the fact that they commission you and you have a guaranteed 5 years of leadership development and experience in the fleet. That sounded exciting to me. Like, oh, wow. Experience matters more than education, I think, in a lot of ways.
For sure. Yeah.
And when you have them together, that's even better. And so that sounded interesting to me. And I thought, well, I could go do this, knock that out, do my 5 years, still be a young man, and yet now have a great experience base to go do other things. And that was kind of my plan was, all right, let's go do this. That's great. Do 5 and out, and we'll go from there.
So,
wow, that's cool to hear him talk about that. Wasn't interested. He thought he'd just do 5 years and out. Ended up, if I heard right, 24 years of service. He's right, man. There's a lot of benefits to the military, to the Defence Force, to that education aspect for those that are going to go in as officers and that sort of thing, or even just if you're in as an OR and taking advantage of the opportunities that there is to gain further education and have that leadership experience and be in an organisation that, in my experience anyway, in my opinion, values service. It could do with a bit of a shake-up in regards to some of the woke and DEI stuff that may be present in and around the place. But by and large, I think it's still a great organisation. Not that I've got my finger on the pulse or been in there, but I've still got a few friends and stuff that are in there serving. And I just have a lot of admiration and respect for the military. I think it's a great place. So hearing him that he wasn't interested in it, that he was a swimmer, pretty interesting. It always, well, not always, but it does surprise me when I hear and see people, especially somebody that's been in so long, like this guy, more than 2 decades in the military, who never thought of it. It does make me smile when people talk about they didn't like the structure of it, or they didn't like the idea of being told what to do, where to go, what time to be at some place, etc., etc. I can't say that I personally thought of that. I knew I wanted to go into the army because I wanted to serve in the SAS, and I knew that part of that process would mean that I'm going to have to be told what to do, and I'm going to have to try to meet those requirements and those timings and those expectations if I wanted to give myself a shot and a chance. And I'm really glad that I went through that. I didn't have any preconceived ideas of, I don't want to be told what to do. I was already used to being told what to do by my mum and my uncles and my grandmother and my grandfather when there's chores and stuff and that needs to be done. Like they tell you to do it, you get up and do it, or you get a hiding. so I was already used to being told what to do, and I was already used to following the rules, so to speak. But very cool and interesting, and still somewhat surprising. 24 years, thought he'd do 5 years, 24 years later, etc., with regards to Brad himself. So
at what point in the Naval Academy process did becoming a Navy SEAL?
Pretty early on.
Yeah.
When I went up as a senior, they let you go up and they call it dragging with a freshman. So you kind of get a couple days in the life of. Mm-hmm. And the guy they partnered me with, his name is Pete Logan. He's now retired as well. Kind of funny, our stories, how they converged over the years. But he had a big SEAL poster on the wall. And I was like, oh, what's the deal with that? I think I remember seeing that movie with Charlie Sheen. He's like, oh yeah, they're incredible. Like, so we talked and that was the hook. That was the beginning. Now at the time, my eyes were too bad. I didn't qualify for SEALs. So I kind of shelved that dream for a little bit and decided I was going to go all in on the Marine Corps. But then about halfway through my time there, they started approving laser surgery for the first time ever. And so I put in a waiver request. You had to pay for it yourself back then. So I went home on Christmas break, knocked it out, got the new eyes, and then put my name back in the hat. And then from then on, it just kind of happened. And funny with Pete Logan, we both retired at the same time. So we met back in 1995, both swam together on the swim team. He was the team captain in 99. I was the team captain in 2000. We both went SEALs. And then I spoke at his retirement about 3 months ago. And then he spoke at my retirement about 1 month ago. So our families are tight, very, very close friends.
20 almost 30 years.
Yeah. I mean, really, it's really close to 30 years when you factor in the Naval Academy, which I do because we wore uniforms. We had ID cards. Like, we didn't have the freedoms everyone else did.
Wow. 30 years, pretty much. That's awesome.
Pretty neat to bookend my career with such a close friend and to have remained so close over these years.
Yeah. So a lot of, had a lot of SEALs on this show.
Yep.
Mostly would have went through BUD/S enlisted. So I had a couple of SEAL officers, Mark Green, Jay Redmond.
Yeah.
But they went through as enlisted.
Yeah, because Jay was enlisted and then went OCS or Seaman Admiral or something, right? I can't remember now, but and
Mark as well.
That's right.
So I think you're the first guy I had come through. What's it like? I mean, we've heard the BUD stories. What's it like going through as an officer? Is it more pressure?
Yeah. Sure. There's a little more pressure, but the Naval Academy does a great job of preparing you. And I think part of it is you get inoculated to the stressors of Navy life. You're used to wearing a uniform. You're used to getting yelled at a little bit. So those kind of stressors you're good with. And so that helps. But even more than that, they always station at the Naval Academy officers and enlisted from the fleet, from every different warfare specialty, to help lead, coach, and mentor all the students there who are looking to go into whatever it is. So I want to be a pilot. I want to be a submariner. I want to be a Marine, whatever. And so they always had a SEAL lieutenant and a senior chief-ish there. And I was very fortunate to have some great leaders at the Academy who had a very good kind of success statistics in prepping us cognitively for what BUD/S is going to look like and physically as well. And so over time, what we've seen is the Naval Academy has a very high success rate. Whoever they decide we're sending to BUD/S or get selected out of that commissioning source do statistically much better than anyone else. Okay. And I think those are the reasons why.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Man, that's cool to hear. Didn't know that. Obviously, it sounds like there's a bit of a somewhat of a similar process, and I'm not fully on across what the officer process is for NZ and Australia, but to a degree, I have my basic understanding, at least here in NZ and Australia, is that you can't just go straight on to selection if you're a new officer. You go through all the officer training, however long that takes, and then you spend some time in your relevant unit, wherever you are posted, getting that leadership experience and all that sort of stuff, leading the teams and meeting with their subordinates and learning the ropes and all that sort of thing before they can then put in their application. So they're different to, I think they use the term enlisted, they're different to ORs or other ranks or non-commissioned officers. We could, at least during my time, we could put in our application, very, very early. As long as we'd gone through basic training and core training and then got into wherever our units were. So in my case, an infantry battalion, we were able to put in our applications as soon as we felt ready, which I didn't know that, to be honest. So, and I've spoken about that before with one of my other mates who basically must have put us in straight after core training, and then he was gone on selection, passed, and then he was on cycle, but then he ended up we ended up on the same cycle together. So yeah, it sounds like there's a similar sort of process for the officers in the US. And what I really like is how you mentioned the Naval Academy, that they've got a really good success rate because of the setup and I guess the time, effort and energy that goes into preparing the officers before they go onto buds. That's very cool. And yep, there is more pressure, in my opinion anyway, without having been through the officer process of selections, but having observed it from afar and then having spoken with a couple of officers or a handful of officers that have gone through that process. Yeah, they do everything that we do as the enlisteds, as the non-commissioned officers, and then they've got extra pieces tacked on for the selection, specifically just for the officers. So there's a lot more pressure. My opinion, they do more, but it's part of the process and part of the expectation that comes with leadership. Part of the burden, I guess you might say, that comes with leadership.
A lot of sense. It's preparation. I mean, preparation is everything.
It is.
And so you show up at buds prepared, and your chances of passing are a lot higher.
And understanding the culture is an important part too.
Right.
I would never say one service component's better than any others, but they're all different cultures.
Yes.
And so you may have a phenomenal leader over here that thrives in the submarine force that wouldn't thrive in the SEAL community, and vice versa. And so having those SEALs at the academy, you get exposure to that culture. You start seeing how they interact, and you can kind of decide too, like, hey, this is a good fit for me personality wise, I think. Mm-hmm. And now you put your submission in, and then they tell you whether they think you're a good fit for their culture as well. They're very, very good at letting you know what they think.
So you served at multiple SEAL teams.
Yeah.
But you also did 2 tours as a leader at SDV 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And I haven't talked much about it on the show, the SDV.
Yeah. No one talks about
SEAL
it
delivery vehicles. I'm fascinated with the job.
Yeah.
I love the water.
Yeah.
I love diving.
So do I.
Combat dive operations, but I don't know if I'd like that job. I mean, I guess it depends what your role is.
But, yeah.
But it's fascinating to me. You got, many submersibles that are both, I think, enclosed and unenclosed. And I'm not sure what.
That's right.
I know some areas, things you can talk about can't.
Sure.
But I'd love for you to just educate the audience on what SDV operations are and how it's different than what everybody else
absolutely
imagines a Navy SEAL to do.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's a great question. And you're right. There's not a lot out there deliberately. It is one of the most clandestine missions our community does. And so very, very, very compartmentalized. So the operations themselves, most people will never hear about. Like, you don't even the regulars, like the SEAL teams, don't know what SDVs are doing. Great example. When I was an executive officer at our training command, 2 guys came from SDV team 1 and like E6s. And their award came through. By the time they came to our command, their award had been in the system from what they had done in the undersea community. And we gave them the awards there in front of the Buds compound, and they were Legions of Merit. For those that don't know, like, that's a pretty high award.
Right.
I don't have a Legion of Merit. And these 2 E6s were getting it for an op they did. And the write-up was pretty much, did some really cool things undersea that no one will ever hear about. Congratulations. Here's your Legion of Merit.
Sure.
And that was pretty much the write-up.
Yeah.
So it's very hush hush. That said, we can talk about what it is in concept. It's brutal. It's brutal. Yeah. I've heard guys joke. I think Jay Redmond was joking with you on his episode here, but you'll be colder and wetter in the teams 100% if you go undersea, if you go SDV, but it makes you hard as nails as well. So it's a very slow.
Man, I like what he's sharing here, just based on, I guess, the rivalry that I came across, that I observed, that I saw within the regiment. And hearing him say that the SDVs, it'll make them hard as nails. I believe that. Why do I say that? There was always talk in NZ and in Australia about water operators and the water operator course being the harder course. And I never got to do the water operator course. I had it down as an option for mine in NZ and Australia, but obviously I didn't get badged in NZ, and so therefore didn't get to progress on to doing the amphib course. But that was the option that I wanted to do, because I'd heard that it was hard. That it was like going through another selection again was what I had heard. Now I hadn't done it, so I can't speak to that. But I do know some guys that have gone through it, and they expressly spoke about how hard it was, how draining it was, physically, mentally, emotionally, etc. And then in Australia, similar sort of culture. Water operators, they had a bit of a strut about them. There's always the banter between the free fallers, the vehicle mounted, and water operators. Things like, oh, when's the last time, the regiment ever parachuted into an operation? When's the last time you've seen water operators diving out in the desert? When there was some of that banter that was going on whilst I was going through cycle in Australia, and it always put a smile on my face. But I did intentionally choose vehicle mounted when I got to Australia because of the nature of the work that was sort of happening. And so I wanted to be a part of that and be as prepared as I could. But my second option was water. So I was lucky, got my first option, got patrol medic, and I got my first option in terms of insertion, which was vehicle mounted, and didn't get on the water course. But again, some of my mates that chose water, that were on the water course, they were already fit. They were already probably at the forefront of all our PT sessions and stuff going through cycle. And then I was seeing them run ragged on their water course, or just hearing about it and then seeing them sometimes from time to time. I knew they were working and how hard it was. And then seeing a good majority of water operators, don't get me wrong, free fallers were fit too, vehicle mounted guys were fit too. But there was, I think by and large during my time, water operators definitely had in my opinion, had the edge when it came to a lot of the PT from a overall perspective. Maybe not individually, because there's some machines, some weapons, and blink and free fall and in VM from a physical fitness perspective. My troop commander being one of those. He's a bloody unit himself, but fit, fast, and strong. So he definitely hold his own. But I think overall the water operators definitely had an edge with regards to their level of fitness and I think toughness as well, to a degree, specifically for that cold, wet environment. But they'll probably be puffing their chest hearing me say that. But it's, in my opinion, my experience, that's what I saw, and I thought it was great how they conducted, or the level and the standard that they aspired to, and how they tried to maintain that.
Methodical, patient mission set, which just takes time underwater to accomplish. It's the same type of missions that the regular SEAL teams do and Dev Group does, but it's at a smaller scale because you can only fit so many people in the back of these things. So think long range reconnaissance type operations, sneaky peeky, you're in, you're out. No one knows you're there, hopefully. And you can get to some really denied areas of the world when you go underwater. We launch these things from submarines sometimes. So
in a mini submersible, right? Because they're less detectable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they fill with, like you said, we have a dry one in our inventory now. That's unclassified. It's out there. But for the majority of our existence, it's been a wet submersible, which basically means you're in an enclosed tube that fills with water, and it's powered, and it's got electronics and some sonar stuff on it. And you can bring different payloads with you wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do. And that mission's evolved over the years, depending on technology, warfare, munitions, all the things. And so it involves SEALs and divers sometimes getting in these things, filling with water, and off you go for as long as you can stand underwater, depending on, of course, temperature and air. Those are our limiting factors. And
then you get warm suit. Do you guys use warm suits?
So we do
warm water suits.
We do. We go back and forth on which ones we use depending on the mission. And there's pros and cons to it all. When you measure out risk to mission, risk to force, the better insulation you have, the better your risk to force is. But saltwater electronics don't go well. And if you're wearing a dry suit and you get one puncture in a dry suit, well, that's a mission kill. So it's a high risk to mission when you're doing that. Sometimes it's necessary, but you're always weighing those risks as we decide how are we going to equip the guys for this op? How miserable is it going to be? How much misery can they endure? One of my favorite stories I like to tell about resiliency. So it actually works out really well.
Yeah.
When I was the commander of SDV Team 1 out in Hawaii, we were developing a new capability, and I can't go too much into it, but the idea is that with these new types of suits, we were going to be able to dive longer in colder water, but it was all experimental. So we were proposing this new concept, which is going to open the aperture for where we could go and what we could do. And this had presidential level awareness. It was a game changer. But as we were talking about it, I said, hey guys, this is all theory. So we reached out to Navy Experimental Diving Unit and said, hey, what's the data on this? What are the stats on human survivability in really, really cold water for really long times? And they said, there is none. No one's really ever done this, what you guys are talking about doing here. So we said, I told the guys, it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to ask people to do. I said, hey, if we're going to talk about this concept, we have to prove we can do it to the president. So we're going to have to show him we can do it. They said, what does that mean? I said, well, we're going to bring in a big refrigerator and we're going to cool our pool down in Hawaii on Oahu down to 34 degrees, big concrete pool. And then we're going to need you guys to sit in there for 9 to 10 hours and do a dive in a concrete pool, just staring at a brick wall. And then we're going to bring in these PhD experts who are going to put sensors all over you, and they're going to assess your core temp the whole time. And then we're going to bring you up every hour or so and do a quick iPad kind of cognitive test to see if your cognitive processing slows down or if that's danger. So we can characterize and quantify the risk if we want to actually advertise we can do this capability. And, it's this quiet room as all these dudes are looking at me. They're like, you want us to do a 9 to 10 hour dive in a concrete pool in 34-degree water? I'm like, yeah, it's going to suck. And this one senior enlisted guy just stands up. He's like, it's got to be done.
Yeah.
If we're going to advertise the capability, we got to do it, dudes. And so they rallied and they did it. And I don't think I've ever seen in my life dudes show more resiliency than that. Just when you talk about going to a dark place.
Yeah, it's not even the cold, right? It's the mental.
Everything.
Just being in. There's no communication.
Dude, so we do have underwater comms, which is great.
That's, yeah.
But
you're in your mind a lot, though.
But it's miserable. And you're just your mind. I mean, 10 hours, dude, come on.
Yeah.
No TVs, nothing like that. And so I put on my wetsuit and a scuba tank and went in with them for about an hour or two. And I went down there. One guy's down there with an Rubik's Cube, just trying to keep his mind busy. Two other dudes had like a lacrosse ball. I think it was heavy enough that they were just passing it back and forth from like you to me underwater. And they did it. And they came up at the end of it. We had a bunch of pizza. We're celebrating. They were telling jokes. It was so impressive to see the level of resiliency and resolve and just commitment to the nation. Really, like, we're going to endure this suffering with no real return on that, no promise of a return. Right. We don't know if we're going to go get an op that does this stuff, but this is a capability that we want to show the nation we were willing to do for them. It was just it blew my mind. I've never been more proud.
That is awesome. I'm going to pause that there. Just looking at the time, it's over 30 minutes, but I'm glad I stuck around to hear that story or hear him share that experience, and respect to those men for doing that. Yeah, you might say, oh, they had a Rubik's Cube or they had a heavier lacrosse ball to pass to keep themselves occupied, but still, that's going to get pretty old and pretty boring pretty quick, sitting there in the concrete tank for however long, 10 hours plus, whatever it was. no pay rise, no pay increase. This is just willing to go through and suffer and do that, like you said, for the purposes of demonstrating that we can provide this capability, that we can go if we need to and deploy into environments like this that may require this level of endurance, resiliency. So, man, there's some warriors out there, that we have the privilege of resting well in our beds at night, going about our daily lives while they're constantly preparing and getting ready to serve again and again. So anyway, I'm grateful for it. Appreciate similarly, I'm grateful for anybody that stuck around this long listening to me babble on, but enjoying this interview. Plenty of interviews on the go, so that helps keep me occupied and trying to pay attention to what it is that I'm listening to as I'm hearing it for the first time. Anyway, with that being said, regardless of your challenges, as always, the message is the same. Just encourage you to keep turning up, keep staying in the fight. Put one foot in front of the other and just take one day at a time. That's all we can really do. Know that things can do and will get better if you want them to. It might be miserable, it might be lonely right now, but I promise you that if you want it, the sun will shine again. There is a light at the end of that tunnel. So just stick at it. As always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, there's a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude for you all.